Okay, well, good morning. The Command Chief and I want to thank you for tuning in. The purpose this morning really is to keep the dialogue going and to give you an update on our top two priorities, and then to answer a couple of your questions that have come in. Let me first start by giving you a quick update outside the wire. What's kind of going on outside of our base. As you know, the effect, the toll it's taken on our nation and in Colorado has been significant. In El Paso County, I talk to the mayor of Colorado Springs once a week just to kind of check up on each other, and he shared with me a little bit of insight in El Paso County. So El Paso County, as of Sunday night at 5 p.m., there were 613 cases of COVID positive in our county, and 37 people had lost their lives as a result of it. Proportionally, El Paso County makes up about 12.5% of the overall population of the state of Colorado, and we're right about the same in terms of percentage of those that have passed, in relation to the overall percentage of total deaths that have occurred. So that number has actually come down quite a bit. We started at about 50% of the total number of deaths in the state, and so that number has come down quite a bit. So the efforts of you and your fellow citizens and local citizens have really had a significant effect on the overall health of the population in El Paso County. I talk to the other installation commanders at least once a week, sometimes more, and we share how each other's doing and kind of check up on each other and kind of get a sense for how things are going at each other's bases. And what I can share with you is, without getting into numbers, is we're all doing about the same. We're all seeing about the same percentages. We're all seeing about the same numbers, and overall, the health of the force in Colorado Springs is very good. So I think that's a very good news story to share. Another really good indicator as to how we're doing in the fight against COVID is the utilization of hospital resources. You see that on various things in the news. Well, our medical group commander, Colonel Grusendorf, the USAFA SG, he provides an update every day to USAFA leadership on kind of the state of hospital resources in Colorado Springs. And what I can tell you is they're in a good place right now. The hospitals are not stretched thin, and none of them have had to tap into that extra surge capacity even if they needed to. So the hospital situation is really very, very stable and here in Colorado Springs. So that's another good indicator of the overall kind of health of the community that we work and live in. So I want to get back to our two priorities, give you an update. As we talked about last time, the superintendent's top priorities are: number one, the health and safety of our force, and then number two, getting the class of 2020 to graduation. So thanks in large part really to your efforts and the leadership and the guidance that have been given to us by our medics and our public health professionals. The health and safety of our force remains very strong. What I can tell you is the epi curve at USAFA is very, very, very flat-ish, and so that's a good thing. Your actions, what that means is your actions have absolutely saved lives. So thank you. Keep it up. We're not declaring victory by any means. We're going to ask that you still continue to do the same things: washing your hands, social distancing, no meetings, and limiting your stops outside the base to essential stops only. And I think if we continue to do that, we're going to continue to see great success with the health of our force here at USAFA. One of the other things that has had a great effect is the teleworking and teaming. This idea of zoning our workforce both by area and by time, so that you don't have everybody in the same place at one time, I think is very important. And then if you work in a certain area and you don't have a need to be in another area, then you shouldn't go in there. It's as simple as that. And that kind of gets to this idea of we're really trying to kind of limit our movement, not just outside the base, but inside the base as well, to just those things that you need to do to accomplish your mission. I want to talk just for one more minute about taking care of yourself and taking care of your families. Last time we used the analogy of the airlines, how you want to put your own mask on first. Well, I want to continue to foot stomp that and make sure that you're taking care of yourself. By this point in the COVID fight, you should have by now made sure that you've developed good habits with respect to exercise and keeping your diet healthy and getting good sleep and just taking care of yourself. You know yourself better than anyone else. You know what helps keep you resilient, and I just want to make sure that you're paying attention to that, especially during this time where we have so many things that we're unable to do. Let's make sure we're taking care of those few things that you can do to make sure that you're keeping yourself resilient. I know that many people haven't been at work physically, haven't been able to work physically because you've got potentially an underlying health condition, or maybe you've got a loved one at home that has an underlying health condition, and for the safety of yourself and the safety of your family members, you haven't been able to come in physically. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. If there's any scenario that you don't feel safe with regards to working in this COVID environment, absolutely tell your boss, tell a coworker, make sure that your situation is understood, and never put yourself into an environment that you think is going to be unsafe for you, your coworkers, or your family members. I just want to reiterate that. Make sure that you understand that that is absolutely okay. We want to make sure you take care of yourself during this challenging time, both you and your families. Our mission is getting the class of 2020 to graduation on the 18th of April. So on the 17th of April, on Friday, there's going to be a series of small group commissioning ceremonies that are going to take place. The cadets will become commissioned second lieutenants on Friday, and then a small ceremony on Saturday is going to occur with leadership represented from our Air Force and our Space Force. There'll be some short remarks given to our cadets. The ceremony will probably last about 30 minutes. It'll be live streamed, no spectators. There'll be none of the traditional pomp and circumstance of USAFA graduation. Like I said, it'll last about 30 minutes. The Thunderbirds will fly over. You saw them perhaps do a practice run last week. They'll fly over the iconic hat toss. And then once that happens, many of those graduates, now second lieutenants, are going to move on to their next base. And they're going to first go home and spend a little bit of time on leave. They're going to transition to their home and then wait until they report to their first base and then join our ranks. And so that's kind of how the next couple of weeks and months are going to go for them. We're going to do everything we can to support and get that class to graduation on Saturday. And I want to thank you for the role that you've played in helping to get us to this point, and the role that you'll play getting us through this week and kind of getting to that culminating event. Okay, so I think that brings us up to speed on current events. I want to turn the floor over to the Command Chief for some remarks as well.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Hey, good morning, Team 10. I just wanted to kind of keep you up to date where we are with the stop movement. I know that this is something that's affecting many folks here, but also folks that are coming into USAFA from overseas or other CONUS bases, and then also kind of highlight the course cancellation and delays out of AETC that are coming down. So the current guidance that was put out 3 April for the stop movement is the message that we're going by. It is the latest that is put out by AFPC. Chief Master Sergeant Select Candy Snyder and her FSS team does a great job in getting just about every message out as soon as she gets it from AETC. But I'd like to start with the effective date. So through May 24th, it's the stop movement for all international travel. So that includes the members and their families, sponsored families overseas, with regards to PCS, TDYs, any government-funded personal leave, and contingency deployments. The CONUS movement stop movement goes through 11 May currently. This also applies to the CONUS leave restrictions that are in place. Currently, there's a 100-mile radius local policy that we have. Please understand that your commanders, both Colonel Hartless and myself, we are aware, we are sensitive to family situations that do arise. And so if there is something that comes up, there's a family need to go on leave outside of that, please route your waiver, your exception to policy up through your chain of command to Colonel Hartless. That needs to be signed by General Severia. So again, we are sensitive to family situations that do arise outside of the 100-mile radius. Please know that those stop movements, if you are retiring or you are separating, you are exempt from that. We are going to allow you to retire currently under the current policy, and you can retire to or separate to wherever you were going to move to. I know time doesn't allow me to go into every single policy that's captured with the stop movement, so I encourage you, please go out, visit MyPERS. All of the data that's listed for both international stop movement and CODIS stop movement are hung out on the MyPERS website. Again, Chief Select Snyder does a great job in pushing out the memos from AFPC as soon as she gets them. So I, again, continue to be on the lookout for those. Today you'll see an email from Sergeant Snyder with regards to the AETC course cancellation and delays. There's over 400 courses that have been canceled or delayed. So again, please make sure that you take an opportunity to look at what those classes are. And then finally, I just ask all commanders, superintendents, supervisors, first sergeants, please be engaged with this stop movement action, this guidance. We need to help our airmen through these challenging times. And I just want to wrap it up by continuing to say thanks for what you do each and every day. You guys are pushing through. Again, it's your commitment, your training and commitment that are getting us through this time. So, sir, with that, I guess we got a couple questions.
We do, Chief. Thank you. So really, just a handful of questions came in. I want to address those. The first one was actually a little bit more of a comment than a question. Someone made the comment that they felt like they were getting more timely information from off-base news outlets than official channels. And I guess maybe I'll just say for a minute that holy cow, the situation has evolved so quickly and so rapidly. And we'd go into one meeting and make a decision based on some conditions and come out of a meeting and they had already changed. So the situation was changing so fast and changing by the minute almost. Things have slowed down a little bit. I think that there's some great sources to go get that information. The chief talked about MyPERS when it comes to personnel matters. There's no better source than that. And really from the beginning, USAFA stood up, the Strategic Communications Cell stood up a website, www.usafa.af.mil. That's our normal website, and they've added a link from the beginning of this, so for the last month on coronavirus. It's a definitive source. It's linked back to information from the CDC, information from original sources like the CDC and the Department of Defense, as well as all the internal communications we've had at USAFA. So that's another great resource that has existed since day one. So I'll just encourage you to continue to go to those sources, talk to your boss, talk to your supervisor, and they can also help out kind of putting you in touch with some of the right resources if you feel like maybe you're lacking some of that information. The first question said that Teams on the commercial virtual remote network, so Microsoft Teams is going to soon be available to DoD, all members of DoD, and would that be a better means for these all calls in the future, similar to the way the superintendent does? And the superintendent is on the .edu network, and we have a little bit more flexibility with that .edu network, but what we don't have the flexibility is to add another 3,000 users from the wing onto the .edu network because it couldn't support that. It's built to support the faculty and the cadets. And so that's proven to be an effective way for him to communicate with the faculty and the cadets. I think that once the Teams on the DoD network gets approved for wider use, I think there's absolutely a possibility we could potentially transition to that. We've looked at other ways like Facebook, but you got to have a Facebook account. YouTube seems to be a way that No one has to have an account. You can watch it live or watch it, on tape delay. And so, bottom line is we're going to continue to evaluate, and try and push information out as effectively as we can. And if Teams proves to be a better way to do that, we'll absolutely transition to that. The last question was, when the base starts allowing workers to return to work, will they be tested for COVID-19 before being allowed back in their workplace? And really the short answer is there's no test that we have for asymptomatic people for COVID. And so the answer is really no at this time, because there just isn't a test that exists for that. The test exists is if you've been screened and you have the temperature and you have the symptoms, and then they can actually test when you're exhibiting the symptoms to test you for COVID-19. But if you're asymptomatic, just as a screen, there isn't currently a way to do that. Because this virus is novel, I know that the smartest people in our country are working on all these different scenarios, whether it is a screening way. Maybe there's a way, I know it's being looked at, to potentially to draw blood and test our blood. Maybe there's a way, there's some promise in that test, but really none of it is proven yet, none of it is available for use. So as of this moment, we're not gonna screen everybody when they come back on the base, because the test doesn't exist. But we just want to make sure that you stay healthy, and anytime when you report in, let's make sure that you feel like you're up for it and you don't have those symptoms and you don't come to work if you're sick. So I think that gets to all our questions. Let me just close again by saying thank you. Thanks for all that you do each and every day. I truly believe that what you're doing is saving lives. And I just, on behalf of the command chief, myself, to you and your families, we thank you for all that you're doing and will continue to do over these coming weeks. So stay engaged with your coworkers, stay connected, stay safe. That's what we're going to ask you to do. As always, stay engaged, stay connected, and stay safe. So thank you, and we look forward to talking to you the next time. Thanks.